This is Wuffa, spelt W-U-F-F-A in some writing. There are other spellings for his name, as you can see. Wuffa was born in the year 550 or 550. He died in the year 578 or 578. If you use your maths, you can actually work out how old he was when he died. He wasn't very old at all. Wuffa was the king of East Anglia. Wuffa was the king for 7 years. Can you work out from the dates what year that was? Can you then also work out how old he was when he became the king? He stopped being the king when he died. That's a clue. I don't know if you've noticed that I'm pronouncing the king's name, Wuffa, rather than Wuffa, with a very strong woo sound. This is because I've read that the pronunciation of words was different in the olden days, in the same way that spellings were different in the olden days. It's believed that Wuffa means little wolf. You can see the old spelling of wolf there with the letter U. The king was in charge, and his family or clan, the family or clan of the wolf, were known as the Wuffings or Wuffingas. The area of East Anglia that Wuffa ruled was known as the Wuffing Kingdom. If you look at the map, you might have noticed that it says North Folk and South Folk. In modern times, nowadays, we call those two areas Norfolk and Suffolk. So the names have changed slightly. The green area known as the Fens is still called the Fens. The green areas are green on the map to show that they're very marshy and the sea washes over them regularly. The sea on that side of the UK is called the North Sea. You can also see an area of the North Sea that comes right up to the land, and it's known as the Wash. This is perhaps because when the tide is high, the sea washes over the land a lot in this area, where you can see the Fens. It's thought that Wuffa's father was the first of the Wuffingas or Wuffings clan to be the king, and Wuffa became the king after his father died. It's thought that the Wuffingas or Wuffings may have been Vikings who came and settled in Britain. The Vikings came from this area, Scandinavia. They would have been Norwegians and they would have been Danes. That's the name of the people. And you can see with the red arrows just how many places they visited. They went up to Iceland and even across to America. They went around the UK to visit Ireland and to get to Britain in that direction as well. And they went into France and to Spain and Portugal, and they went all the way around Portugal and Spain and went to Italy. You might be wondering, why did they go in that direction? That's because they travelled by boat. They had really fantastically designed Viking ships. And they're quite famous in history. One bit of evidence that the Wuffings or Wuffingas may have come from across the sea is that a boat, a Viking longship, was found by archaeologists buried deep beneath the earth in an area of Suffolk or South Folk, as you've seen it on the map. You can see the remains here of lots and lots of planks and the nails to join them together and the ribs of the boat. That's made of pieces of wood, and the wood was rotten a little bit, but it was also preserved by being buried. Here's another picture of it, and you can see the shape of the Viking ship, and you can see how it was underneath a hill, and the archaeologists have cut through the earth to reveal it. This is a great big hill, and they've had to go down lots of layers until they eventually found parts of the ship, and then they had to spend ages and ages and ages very carefully removing the soil so that they didn't disturb or destroy any evidence of the ship. And this is what a Viking ship would look like when it's on the water, when it's not buried beneath the earth and not rotten. As you can see, the ship would have had a huge sail. That's the name of the fabric that's attached to the piece of wood going across here. This here, and this is the sail. And the piece of wood holding everything up that the ropes are tied to is known as the mast. And this part of the ship is known as the hull. Dr. Sam Newton has started a website called Wuffings website. It's not really for children. The language is too difficult. But as you can see, he's an archaeologist who's interested in this time of the development of Great Britain. Some people like to dress up as Wuffa or the Wuffings or Wuffingas, and they like to reenact battles that they would have had. This reenactment took place at Sheringham in 2020. If you want to see the full video, this is the link. The Vikings travelled to new lands to find great places to live. They wanted to settle there and become farmers. But because there were people there already, lots of fighting took place. During the fighting, lots of damage was done and things like documents were destroyed. That's one of the reasons we don't know very much about this particular king, Wuffa. We know of his name and we know his father's name because a monk called Bede wrote about the family. But Bede lived after Wuffa was alive. So all he had to rely on was what other people told him. least we do know his name. And we do know that his clan or his family were also known by the same name or a similar name, Wuffings or Wuffingas. This means he was probably a very important character when he was alive. It's time now for you to use your imagination. Imagine that you are King Wuffa. A messenger has just told you that new Vikings have arrived on the shore of the land. You're sure that they are going to try to take some of the land for themselves. You must try to protect the Wuffing kingdom. You will need help from the Wuffing clan, that's your family, and all of your subjects, the people who live in the Wuffing kingdom. How will you protect the kingdom? What will you use? Will you let any of the Vikings stay in your kingdom, or will you force them to return to their own lands? If you decide to let any of them stay, how will they show that they are not a threat to you? How will they show they are loyal to you now? You might want to talk through your ideas with a grown-up or a big brother or sister. You will need a big piece of paper or a notebook, and you will need something to write with. Here is a written reminder of the scenario. The words in blue are words you may want to include in your writing. You could draw a picture, either before you start writing to help you get your ideas together, or after you have finished your writing to illustrate it. There are different styles of pictures that you can draw to illustrate your work. Is it time to get started? Please make sure that you give yourself enough time to do the task really well. Here's how you could split up the task into different parts. First of all, you could spend between 10 and 15 minutes just planning your ideas. Don't forget that it's a good idea to talk to a parent or a big brother or sister about your ideas. As part of the planning stage of your work, you could draw some pictures to help you. You could do the next part of the work on another day. You will need to sit down somewhere comfortable with a piece of paper or a notebook and something to write with. Don't forget to look at your plan as you are writing. Write your ideas in full sentences and check each one makes sense before you go on to the next one. Use punctuation correctly, capital letters, commas, full stops, question marks, exclamation marks. Check that you're spelling your words correctly. When you've written a few sentences, stop. Read over your sentences to see if they make sense when you read them together. Remember, that's called text cohesion. It could take you anything between 40 minutes and an hour to complete the writing. So you might want to have a little break in the middle. When you have finished your writing, read it out loud to a grown-up or a big brother or sister. Ask them what they think about it. The next stage of the writing process is to think about correcting any mistakes. You might also have had some extra ideas that you want to add to your work. You could decide to do that on another day. Finally, if you didn't draw pictures at the start, perhaps you'd like to draw a picture now to illustrate your work. It's an idea to choose one of the most exciting parts of your writing and try to illustrate that. I hope you really enjoy this task. Good luck with your work.